Hi everyone, today we're gonna look at a palindrome question, like how to solve a palindrome number. Given integer x, return true if x is a palindrome integer. And integer is a palindrome when it reads the same backward as forward. For example, 1 to 1 is a palindrome while 1 to 3 is not. So basically, if you reverse it and if it's still the same thing, and we can just call it a palindrome. In example 1 to 1, if you flip it, 1 to 1 still reads as 1 to 1, right? Still the same thing. And so we're gonna return true. And down below in the second example, we have 1 to 1 again, except it's negative and it's false. So negative numbers in this case are always gonna be false. And you can see once we reverse it, we have the negative sign on the right side, and we don't really want that. If you read down below here, we have a follow-up question. Could you solve it without converting the integer to a string? Which means we can't take this entire number and convert it into a string. Well, of course, if we could use like built-in string methods, then it'll be much easier, but it's not the case. We're gonna solve this problem, main idea here, just by using math operations on the input integer. And to demonstrate or to illustrate the idea, I prepared a demo. Here, we have a few variables on here, x, copy, and reverse. We know x is given a value. But I will explain why we have copy and reverse here in a little bit. Just bear with me for now. So suppose we have a value 1, 2, 3, and the idea, let me grab a pen. Okay, so the idea is that we want to get the digits in the ones place of x and store it as the most left digit of another variable. In this case, the digit is going to be here in the hundreds place. And now you know why we call it reverse. We have this variable called reverse because ideally we want this variable eventually to be 3 to 1, and it's reversed x. Okay, so and in order to move, we know that it's gonna be 3, right? So every digit, if you get it, it's gonna start at one's place, right? And we want to, what we want to do is to move it to all the way to the hundreds place or the most left place. But in order to achieve that goal, to move the digit from right to left or from ones to hundreds, we can just multiply it by the product of tens whenever we get the next value, or like with either like every iteration. Yeah, so for example, our initial number is 3, and we're gonna have 3 here, and we're gonna start it at the ones place, and when we get the next value, which is 2, and we want 3 to be in the tens place, right? For now, so we can just multiply 3 by 10, and then add 2, and it's gonna give us 32. Once we have 32, we could just erase here, and update our reverse variable to be 32. And then we have 1 coming up as our next digit or value. And all we could do just use the current value, 32 times 10 and plus 1. And it's equal to 320. And now we can update our reverse variable again to be 220. So when these 3 slots are filled, then we could just compare x with the reverse variable at the end. So to see if the input number is a palindrome or not. Yeah, so let's move back a little bit. But how can we get the ones place or the rightmost value or the digit in math? I guess all of you know the answer, right? We can just mod the input x by 10. So if we take 1, 2, 3, and we mod it by 10, and we get the value of 3. And next, we just follow the procedure we just did here. Okay, and we could just have it saved to like in the variable reverse variable. And since we already got the most right value here, 3, let's pretend we already have 3, and then we can just get rid of 3, right? Like this. And we could just by chopping the tens off of the input x. So in order to do that, we could just use 1, 2, 3 and divide by 10. And it's gonna give us 12. But remember, we need to compare x here, compare x to reverse variable at the end. So we want it to be intact. And now it's better to create another variable. Actually, we had already created x copy and to hold the value of x. And from now on, we're gonna only operate on or like alternate the copy variables, which means we're gonna do the chopping here, or we're gonna mod whatever operation is gonna be. We're gonna do it on the copy variable, and to get the value for the reverse variable. Yeah. Again, if we divide the copy of 10 here and here, and then we could just chop out the ones place, and you'll run down, and we'll get like the value 12. So we are left with 12. And in order to get the next value for the reverse variable, we're basically just going to repeat the process until the copy is is equal to 0. So I do this, we're gonna get 2 and then put it here. It's gonna update it to be here, and the 1 is updated to here. Oh, why I have 1 here? I'm sorry. It should be 321, not 320. And yes, I hope this is helpful. I know this might be a little bit confusing right now. But as we go through the code, we'll understand, and hopefully you will understand like how this idea works. So let's jump into the code right now. Clear. And back to the code. So here I already have my code set up. Uncomment it. Yeah, here we have a function is Palindrome, and it's given x as the input. We have talked about x for a while. And first up, we need an if condition to check if the value is negative, right? And remember, we discussed from the second input example. So any negative numbers are always going to be false. So we're going to check here. If it's less than 0, we're going to just return false immediately. And next, we're going to create a variable called reverse and set it to 0. And we're going to create another variable called copy and set it to x and to hold the value of x. Well, and then we will have a while loop, and then the while loop, while the copy is non-zero, and that means we're going to like continue to repeat the math operations, including the mod or division on the copy variable. Yeah, inside of it, we're gonna grab our last digit first, and save it into a remainder variable. And to get it, all we could do is to take the copy multiplied by 10. And once we had that, then we're gonna just update our copy by getting rid of its most right digit. Then we can say just copy equal to copy divided by 10. And so we've just like chop off the last number of the input or of the copy. And to make sure that the reverse variable like multiplies of 10 at each iteration, we talk about like during the demo. So now we can say just reverse is equal to reverse times 10 plus remainder. Okay. Then we can move to the last line of the code. So basically, we're gonna take X and compare it to its reverse version, and to check if they are equal to each other. If it does, then we can just return true. Otherwise, we just return false. All right, and let me submit it. Yeah, it works. Okay, so time complexity of our solution is going to be big O of n, and our space complexity is going to be O of 1, since we only have a few variables. Thank you for watching. See you next time.